yeah. So, I don't know. Watching horror games aren't really the same thing I've recently discovered with Let's Playing and stuff. As actually playing horror games, yeah, it is a huge difference. Especially with a horror game that actually manages to add in suspense into combat, something you don't get when you watch it. I'd still ironically like to do a Let's Play of it if I could, though I'm not, no guarantees on that. It's probably not gonna happen if it does, not for a bit, just because it's not really the kind of system that's easy to record, at least, yeah. I don't think it's that easy to record. It might be, but, and then, there's a whole bunch of stuff to worry about. Anyways, to get a little off topic with that, I guess I'll finish my basically practically reviewing it. So I was really getting off on calling it amazing and stuff, and I really love the game, but I have to admit, it's not perfect. And it does even share a lot of the common things. Like, when you're using the camera, I actually find the controls are really nice and they work really well. And stuff. But when you're not using the camera, it's back to that really standard controls for a horror game, which this one it feels appropriate, and you are playing a little girl. She's not super little, but she's like young teens, whatever, something, probably young teens. I honestly forget. I know it's young enough that she's not like adult looking. She's still like, I don't know how you'd adorable in the way that you'd expect a little child to be. That almost sounded really bad. It's adorable in the way you'd expect a little person to be. Oh, they're so adorable with their chubby little cheeks. I'm sure there's gonna be some people that are gonna appreciate that. Anyways. So, yeah. But yes, you have the kind of awkward controls, but like I said, it feels fitting, and obviously for once I'm like, well, the character actually feels like they're supposed to be a downgrade from me. I'm not playing an adult. I'm not playing someone who should be capable. They don't have any combat experience, and they don't even really have that much experience in, being alive as a general thing. So, obviously they're not that suspicious with things like ghost towns and all of that until ghosts start showing up, and then like, oh my god, ghosts, and then it's all downhill, except for me it's all uphill because I can take pictures of ghosts. But yeah, the game is also pretty hard. Yeah, which is to be expected for a horror game. But I find the difficulty isn't unfair, and it's not impossibly hard. It's just, one of the things that the combat system doesn't feel like it does well, and admittedly a more advanced player would probably, nowadays I'd probably have an easier time with this, but back then I had a big problem with this, and even now I might. But dealing with multiple opponents was not easy. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe I could get them so they're both on the same side. I'm not sure. If not, though, it'd still be probably really hard. 'Cause, yeah, it was really difficult dealing with opponents on multiple sides of you, 'cause, yeah, you really didn't have much control in that situation. You had to, because you can't really dodge attacks very well, and you can't, when you're in camera mode, you can't really watch your back very well, which is how you have to be when you're preparing to attack one of them. And I think that hardly ever came up, if it ever did. Well, I'm sure it did, because I'm talking about it. I almost certain I remember. No, I'm not. It's just done that now. I'm almost certain I remember something with that. I do remember this really annoying teleporting guy who sucked a lot. But that was game mechanics, and to be honest, he wasn't that bad if you knew what you were doing. But I almost did die to that guy the first time, and he, threw stuff, and he was a pain. Anyways, so yeah, and then it had little silly things, which I think is honestly why my sister says it's not scary. And it might down the horror factor for some people, but like, I think it's funny. And yeah, I guess it does. But I don't know. It doesn't really while you're playing the game. But so what you can do is, once you take pictures of the ghosts, they don't actually go away. So you have all these snapshots of ghosts building up, and you can do whatever you can delete them or not do anything with them if you want. But if you want, at save points you can actually build these albums, which take a lot of space in the memory cards. But you could build albums of ghosts, pictures of ghosts. And yeah, the game had a system for that. There wasn't. You weren't supposed to do it. I mean, not to say you weren't supposed not to, but it was obviously there, so they wanted you to possibly do it, but you didn't have to. But yeah, so you could have these albums of ghosts, and it was cool. I liked that. And yeah. It was silly. It was really silly. We had so many pictures of some ghosts, especially ones like that showed like the ghosts. You could see the way they died. There's this one girl with the snapped neck, and I don't know why. She was just fun to take pictures of. She looked so dorky. You'd think that'd be horrifying. Oh, there's this ghost going on with a snapped neck, but now, I guess partially because it was unrealistic. It wasn't even like this. It was like super far off to the point that with having a neck in place, you can't even do it. So I'm not gonna try. But yeah, so her head was like all the way down there, so something. So yeah, it was yeah, that was the whole picture taking thing was silly. And stuff. It was at the very least a fun game, and I think it was still a scary game. But at least it was a fun game. That is something I can say about the game. It was fun, which is not something I can say about a ton of horror games. Oh yeah, you can probably see me playing with this sometimes. It goes to my headset, my headphones. I keep calling them headset. My microphone's over there. I'm not gonna move it for you to show you because I have it recorded in another video, and I don't want to move it around while I'm recording. Anyways, everything's still recording and stuff, right? Yes. Okay. So I'm a little paranoid with that since it's my first time with this. Anyways, so yeah, you have that, and that might have been it. But besides that, I guess that's yeah, the good point to bring it around. Besides that, I can't think of that many games. There's a few. There's some, like Eternal Darkness is pretty neat. Though even then, some people are really, hype about the controls and stuff. I'm like, Eternal Darkness was fun. I liked some of the controls, but it kind of had the classic, the way the hit detection was a pain at sometimes, because I really liked the way it worked, but like if you were next to a wall, your sword would hit the wall, and that kind of makes sense. But your character would always do the same, similar animation, and sometimes the game would build in tight corridors, and that they were just a pain, and I didn't really like them. I'm like, I don't really like when corridors fight against me. Um, Especially in games I can't really control the way I swing. I can control, in fact, that's one of the cool things about the game, you can control how you swing, but, you know, I can't specifically say stab the guy instead of swing your sword. Um, like, you know, like I can in The Legend of Zelda, which doesn't even really have that issue. You know, you don't have the issue of hitting side things, but if you did, there's a lot of sword control, actually. Um, yeah. But anyways, so that's one of my few complaints, to be honest. You know, that is Eternal Darkness is a good game. I love the sanity system. I like a lot of the fun things about it. The other things are the spells are kind of imbalanced, but that's once again nitpicking. If you know, if you don't want to be super godly powerful, then don't, you know, use the high level spells. But if you're me and you want that, then go for it. You know, it's like just doesn't make it as scary. Or it's just, you know, makes combat pretty simple. It's just like bam, I got all the shield points, and I got the, you know, I have the attack spells or whatever. Um, but yeah. So and the magic system was cool. So they had some neat things with that. But let's see. So Eternal Darkness was kind of neat, but it wasn't, for me. It wasn't the same degree. But maybe it was because it wasn't really at the same time. So um, I never really got to I never got to playing it enough that I actually finished it, unfortunately. But I did have fun with it, but still, it has some of those classic issues for me with games, which, for not games, for horror games, like the camera is another big gripe for me, and you know, some people might not have a big issue with it. And I get that it's for being dramatic, and it really does add to the atmosphere sometimes. But other times, it's just a pain when I can't see what I'm hitting. You know, there's a huge difference there. You know, like these backgrounds. I have my computer set to scroll through backgrounds like it used to, and they keep getting more distracting. Anyways, so Rainbow Dash looks pretty hype, but I feel like I'm being crazy right now. Probably because I'm tired. Anyways, so yeah, but you know, but that was an issue with Fatal Frame as well, was the camera. Actually, I didn't mention that. I think yeah, if you know, when you were in camera mode, obviously that wasn't a problem. But when you were in the normal mode that you'd go into, which, you know, to walk around and stuff, because you don't explore with the camera because it wasn't efficient. I don't think you moved very fast, if you could move at all. And sorry, that was. Anyways, so yeah, you couldn't move very fast, I don't think, if at all. You probably couldn't move, actually. But it was efficient, and you couldn't really pick up items in that, so, you know, it was just faster to exit out and run around and pick up the glowy items and stuff. But yeah, so the camera was sometimes an issue where you'd have it where you didn't want it, and the camera would try and change angles and stuff sometimes mid-room, and it was like, I don't really like that. You know, I like a game where the camera can happily follow behind me, where it should be, in my opinion. You know, and where the camera doesn't flip out. You know, my sister still swears. She still swears Castlevania 64 wasn't that bad. I'm like, bullshit. Castlevania 64 sucked. there is no excuse for any bit of that game. It sucked. It sucked really hard. But anyways, that's beside the point. It's just a perfect example of a camera gone terribly bad, horrible. Yeah. So I don't know why this got off into a whole thing with horror game reviews. I'm sure if anyone wants to go back, they could maybe tell me, but probably not. I don't know. I certainly have this. It's a common thing, and hopefully it doesn't bother anyone to where I get off on so many different subjects, and I'll just start sitting down and going through things. How I'm doing this. Hook. I'm obviously getting tired if I think this is interesting. Look at my finger. It's a finger. It'll poke your face. But yeah, anyways. So that's kind of a common thing, and that's super commonplace for horror games. Every horror game I've ever played, camera sucks. It'll get you killed. And it'll be in the way so many times. Sometimes you won't even know which way you're going because the camera keeps jumping around. So yeah, it's and the combat usually really sucks is the issue. You know, like Silent Hill. Some people could disagree. I don't know why you would. I guess Silent Hill it's supposed to be well, it's supposed to be scary, and there probably are people who disagree. It's just everyone in Silent Hill when I'm playing it is so incompetent. Moving, hitting, anything. There's no active dodge thing. The funny thing is, I do remember a review Spoonie gave for Resident Evil 3, or at least he was generally talking about horror games, kind of like I am, and he said, you know, everything in that game, like, kicks the shit out of you, and I'm like, I don't remember that part, to be honest, and it might be because of the different difficulty settings. You know, also, I you know, paraphrased him. I don't know exactly what he said, but, you know, that's basically the idea, is that everything just owned you in that game. Like, I don't really remember having that much of an issue. Not to say the combat was good, and there were multiple settings, which was probably why. Now, admittedly, this isn't to say the combat was excellent, or that I'm totally truthful there, because I never had that much of a trouble with it for the most part, but the general monsters, I never really had an issue with it. It was, I just remember there was this one boss I got to. Oh yeah, but there's different difficulty settings, so I might have had the difficulty on the combat set's hardest. Even then, I found the easiest, like some of the, monsters, like they're the big weird fleshy monsters, and so the strategy was just to basically strafe. I forget if you strafe to the left or to the right, but you strafe to one direction. I think it was, or maybe it was you backed up and then you went for, I don't know. There was some pattern. You strafed or you did something. And then you attacked and you just rinsed and repeat. And if you were good enough, you didn't take any hits. If you did it well enough, there wasn't a huge strategy, but, you know, you just kept moving and hitting and moving and hitting, and eventually they couldn't handle it. I don't even think it was you stopped hit. I think you just kept strafing around the dude while you whacked him with a thing, and, you know, which is funny because it sounds like that's good combat control, but it isn't, you know. Sure, you can strafe around a dude while you hit him with a crowbar, or pipe or whatever, and that sounds great. And that is kind of neat, but that's the extent of it. You can stand still and hit people with a thing, or you can move and hit people with a thing, and that's it. There's not a lot of else. There's not a lot else you have control wise. You can't do any sort of combat dodge. You can't really turn very fast or efficiently, so moving away from an attack is not very easy unless the monsters like those big slow things, which, the reason why they're so easy is because they're big and they're slow. So you just keep going around them, and they can't handle it because they're huge and slow monsters. So that they can't hit you. Because their reaction time, their time is, they don't move fast enough. So, yeah, I just own those things, for the most part. But then again, like I said, I usually set the combat level lower, because mainly what the combat levels seem to do in that game was it gave the enemies so much more health. It might have made you take more damage too, but it gave the enemies so much more health, and it just made fighting boring. You'd sit there and you'd whack at things, and even if you were doing a good job and not taking hits, well, you were just sitting there and whacking things for, and they take like 10 hits or whatever. I want to, or more. It's like, I don't want to sit here and whack every single big weird monster I come across like 20 times or 15 times, whatever. Yeah. It's not a fun time. You encountered a lot of those too, actually, all things considered. But yeah. So I was just bringing that up. But like I said, there's not that much skill to combat. Like it's which is what brings me to the fact that I say this, and yet I do remember I never beat Silent Hill 3. I remember I was gonna replay it at some point, but I got stuck, at least last time I played it. And what happened was it was a pretty late game, when I was in the really creepy carnival thing, and, it wasn't the first time you went there. It was, it was near the end of the game when everything was legitimately creepy. Not like the beginning of the game where you can die basically whenever, and it's all a dream sequence. Not very big spoilers because it's the beginning of the game, and, well, yeah, it'd be a weird place for the game to start off. But yes, So, the shadow version of my character, I could not get past her. I tried, and I tried, and I tried. And I don't know if I just wasn't good enough back then. I think, honestly, what happened was I was a little lackluster in combat and with my saving. And I ended up not being able to go into the fight with very much health. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't beat her. I didn't have enough health, and I didn't have enough supplies, and I just kept dying, and I got fed up with it. So eventually I was like, well, I could keep going, but I think, my sister hasn't seen it anyways. I think I'll go back and show it to my sister or something. And, yeah, that didn't really happen, though. I think I actually played that. I could be wrong, but I think I actually played that alone. That seems weird. I don't know if I could swear, though. I don't know what happened with that. It's been so long since Silent Hill 3, and I just don't remember it that well. Not as well as Fatal Frame 2. But, yeah. It was a really good horror game, but like I said, it could have used a combat dodge, and to be honest, I don't even know if there was an efficient way to take down the shadow version of my character. Because at some point, the way the fight goes, first it's easy, she pulls out a knife, then she pulls out a long weapon, then she pulls out a gun. It goes like health stages thing. And, it was when she pulled out the gun, I was like, I don't have enough health. How do I deal with her pulling out a gun? Gun. No. So, yeah. But that was my fault. That wasn't the game's fault. It just really sucked. But I failed on the survival bit of the survival horror. I did not keep enough supplies. So yeah, it happens. That is a good lesson on rotating your saves, to be honest, and some other stuff like, being careful with your supplies. But yeah, rotate your saves on games. Make sure you have plenty of backup saves from earlier on if you're in a game that you might, if that not having enough supplies might bite you in the butt, or that not having an item might bite you in the butt, or whatever. Yeah, it's always good to keep an extra save file on hand anyways, even during games that aren't like that, as long as you can keep an extra save file on hand, because there are games where, like, I've had games save me at really ridiculous points, or I'll save at really ridiculous points. I'll load the game and I'll immediately die, or I'll load the game and it'll be a game that's all like glitched out or set up somehow like that I don't want it. Like, I forget why, but there was this one time when I was playing Oblivion, and luckily I had done the multiple saves, but I don't know if it auto-saved. I think that's what happened. I think I loaded the auto-save, and during the auto-save, and after I had saved, I just started being silly. So I, literally dropped every item in, almost every item I could in my house. I dropped everything. My house was just flooded with random crap that I had dropped. And yeah, I loaded up, I was like, I don't want that. And then I loaded up the other side. I was like, okay, that's right. I had all my stuff on me, and I didn't have, my house was fine. I had my my wench thing girl, I guess. She was there, and she was like, do you want this shepherd's pie? And I was like, no, wench. Don't really want a shepherd's pie, to be honest. To be quite frank with you. I'd rather not have one. So, yeah, that's pretty much sums up my thing on that. But so rotating save is a good idea. Horror games, combat bad, usually, which is why it's become a little more popular lately, and it's still not the only way they do it, but it's become a little more popular lately to avoid combat in a horror game, which is really a bad idea, and it seems to have worked out quite well. Obviously, they've done that in, They did that in, one of the more famous indie games about, Amnesia. Like, everyone knows that one. And also The Witch's House, and several other ones I've been playing recently, honestly. There's a lot of the indie games I've been playing recently, there's no combat system, which is fine, for a horror game. Well, not just for a horror game. As long as it's not, a game that requires combat, like a fighting game. That's fine if there's no combat system. So, horror game, yeah, that works fine. If you get caught by much of anything, you die. But, so it becomes a game of dodging about things and trying to not get found and all that. But that's fine, and it is legitimately scary. Not being able to fight back. Which is part of the reason that I find that Slender is actually a, decently scary game for me. Though it's still not the best horror game, and to be honest, it's, once you get used to the idea of Slender, it's not that scary. Yeah, there's some of the ideas in there, but it's like, I don't know. Obviously, last time I played it, though, I found it pretty scary. But yeah, it's a game. It happens. I don't know. And then a lot of jump scare type games, which I suppose are usually also the ones where you don't really okay, a lot of the horror games where you don't have a combat system kind of do rely on jump scares a little bit, though not specifically. Yeah. House of the Dead doesn't, but that's one of the few examples. Besides that, there's usually quite a few jump scares to a degree. Loud sounds, stuff jumping out at you. The witch's house, that's basically what the entire game was something jump out at you, and you'd usually die, and then you'd have to reload it to be ready for it, and then run past it. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. My favorite version of what was it called again? Oh yeah, High School of the Dead. This for the PSP version of that. I really like it. And it doesn't have a combat system, and it doesn't it doesn't really rely on jump scares. It might rely on gore a bit, but I don't know if it really relies on. That's just an effect, It's kind of a normal thing for a horror game. I guess it's just more of the death scenes. Like, some of the death scenes are really, they didn't show them completely, but they have texts, and they do show, they'll show pictures and stuff. It is, one of the first major death scenes I got, well, actually, the first death scene I got was horrifying. And I was like, fuck. Did I just read? That was terrible, and then I kept playing the game, and I was like, I love this game, but that's so terrible sometimes. The ghosts, I'll give it away. The ghosts, possess the girl and make her shove a pair of scissors down her own throat. Why? That is terrible. You can just, I don't know, make her stab herself through it. No, you had to, because you're ghosts, douchebags like that. And yeah. But it's not really a random thing. The game, indeed, the ghosts are basically, they feed on pain and they basically feed on pain and suffering. It doesn't, well, yeah, it doesn't explicitly say that, but that's kind of, yeah, they want pain and suffering. I guess they don't exactly feed on it, but they want pain and suffering. So that's why they're killing people. So they're not, yeah, obviously they're just not gonna outright kill someone. That wouldn't involve enough pain and suffering. I've really gone off on this whole horror game thing. It's probably a side effect of being a Let's Player. I got a talk on things, and now I'm just like, I can't stop. Help, no. Help me. I need help. Probably don't need help. So, yeah, I think that's, legitimately it, so kudos to those game developers who have made horror games that combat systems work, and, I don't want to see carbon copies all over the place, but hopefully we'll see a few more of those. I'd certainly love to see a few more pony ones, out there. Maybe, and not just jump scare ones, like legitimate horror game, pony games. Another thing, real quick, I'm not done yet, because I'm never done. Don't worry. Change of plans. I am definitely breaking this up. In fact, In fact, because this part's gonna be so huge and I don't even know how it'll turn out, I'm gonna cut here, and then I'll continue my rant. So to be continued.